people today. They could spend half their lives over 50. That's a lot of living. So it helps to have a wise friend and fierce defender in your corner. A friend like AARP. So your health lives longer.
This is just slow-mo karate?
Just slow-mo karate.
Your money lives longer.
I just bought that.
I just sold that.
And your happiness lives longer. That's why the younger you are, the more you need AARP. Join today.
Welcome to AARP Illinois' virtual event. It's so wonderful to have you with us. AARP is on a mission to connect with individuals across various communities, especially those aged 50 and above. We're here to listen, understand, and address the unique needs of you and your community as we age. Our goal is to enrich your experience by expanding our local activities, providing opportunities for you to discover and engage with all that life has to offer right here in your own community and virtually. As we journey through today's event, we invite you to consider joining our dedicated team of AARP volunteers. It's a chance to make a meaningful impact and help us better serve those 50 plus across the nation. Connect with us and be a part of this vibrant movement toward positive change. Welcome, and let's make this event both fun and transformative.
Hello and welcome. My name is Lori Hendren. I'm the Senior Associate State Director for AARP Illinois, and we are thrilled to have you with us today. We're having a virtual event on debt and elder law, what seniors need to know. To shed light on this important event, we have our special guest, Steve Andersson, an elder law attorney and a contractual lobbyist for AARP Illinois. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here, Lori.
Thank you. And so for all of you that are joining us on Facebook and YouTube, this 30-minute power session is for you. We want to hear your questions and comments, and please put those in the feed, and we will do our best to address those and elevate those to Steve during our conversation. Today, our questions will go over a broad range of topics, but remember, they're just a starting ground for your planning consultation. But make sure you talk with your professional, your elder law, financial planner, or healthcare. And remember, all the specifics that we may talk about today may vary by jurisdiction. So consult, again, with your specific elder law attorney, tax attorney, financial advisor for your personalized guidance. So Steve, I want to give you the floor for opening comments.
Well, thank you so much. As I said, it's always a pleasure to be here with AARP. A couple of just introductory matters. Number one, although I am an attorney, I'm licensed in Illinois, not every state in the union. And I know that this broadcast goes out to actually anywhere since it's the internet. So what I'm going to be giving you today is not specific legal advice for a specific state or jurisdiction. This is going to be what you might consider a general overview of what the law typically is. Sometimes there might be questions about federal law. Those I can probably answer, but otherwise take it as a primer. But most important, when you get right down to it, you need to talk to an attorney who's licensed in your jurisdiction, as opposed to relying on what I have to say this morning, because it might not be 100% accurate for where you happen to be. And number two, it's going to be okay. I like to say that about this program every time, because we can help you work through problems. We can talk about them. Please, please, please put your questions in the chat. Although we have some idea of what we want to talk about today, it's much, much better if you ask your direct questions. They're usually more penetrating than we can come up with, so please do that. And oh, one more thing. My dog is in the background, so if you hear a bark, I apologize, but hopefully he'll be a good boy today. So thank you.
That's wonderful. My puppy is as well, so it will work out great. So let's start this off. From your experience, Steve, what kinds of debt do you see most often with older adults, and which ones should they focus on paying first?
Sure. So unfortunately, one of the most common types of debt that seniors encounter is something that they can't control, typically medical debt. In other words, hospital stays, medical treatments, things like that. You have to get those. It's not like you have a choice. And so that often creates a situation where someone has been responsible their whole life, saved, has a nest egg, all of that. And then suddenly that can be wiped out and going in reverse where you go into debt. That is really, really unfortunate. But it's something that happens a lot. I would also mention that the number 2 area that's growing is credit card debt. And I think that's just the nature of the economy these days and how high prices have gone for groceries and other things, that sometimes people think they have no choice but to incur credit card debt. I really want to encourage people to avoid that, and I've got some suggestions on how to do that. But that is actually for people between 60 and I want to say 70, that has gone up like threefold from 20 years ago. And for people 75 and older, it's gone up quadruple since that same period. So if you're experiencing this, understand you're not alone. And you're not alone both in the experience, but you're also not alone in that there are resources. And we hope we can help with that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Those are interesting statistics. And sometimes it's very hard with healthcare debt, with caring for as a caregiver, having to balance it all. So we understand. If someone can only make a minimum payment on a credit card, what realistic options do they have before the debt just gets out of control? And again, there's no judgment in this. We get it. If you're joining us, we understand people have life, cars break down. You may be in a very high property tax area. You may have, as a caregiver, having to keep paying on a car that may have 300,000 miles just to get it going, keep your loved one to the doctor's appointment, paying for such doctor's appointment. So, Steve, what are some options for that debt gets out of control?
Yeah. So number one, your point about paying the minimum. If you pay the minimum on your credit card, typically it will take you 30 years to pay off whatever that is, because that's how they base the minimum. So I would really encourage you, number one, try not to get into that debt. But as Lori just said, you can't really control that. The other best option in my mind is to talk to somebody about it. And there are credit counselors out there, licensed credit counselors. They can offer you very specific tips because they will work through your finances with you. They'll sit down right there with you, look at your bank accounts, look at your income, look at your debts, and be able to help with that. So I definitely encourage that sort of thing, because when Lori, when you ask like what's the best thing to prioritize, that becomes a very specific question. And so I don't want to say definitely do this or that. But those are the type of people that can help with that. And one other caveat with that, there are companies out there called credit repair agencies. Those are not credit counselors. Credit repair agencies only try to improve your credit rating. They do not help you with the idea of managing your debt. And they make their money in a very different way. And while I'm not going to libel any particular business entity, I would encourage you not to use credit repair. I'd encourage you to use credit counseling.
It's fascinating. Thank you. So, thank you for our listeners. We have a question from YouTube. Hello, what happens to a title of a home that is in a trust of an elderly couple, but later an estate conservator assigned to the wife? Can the conservator deny the husband's request to sell it?
So that there were a couple of steps there in that question. It said it was in a trust, but then later in a conservatorship. So what that means typically for people, a conservatorship is oftentimes also called a guardianship, where someone has now been put in charge of the assets, the estate of someone who's no longer capable of acting on their own behalf. And that is done by a judge. That's not something casual. A judge makes that determination. So, but let's assume for purposes of the question that the house is still in a trust, right? So the trust is not the person. The trust is a separate entity, which means that trust already has a trustee, someone who is there to take care of that. So that's not a part of that guardianship necessarily. But what if the trustee is the person who is the guardian, right? Because maybe you set it up where you were your own trustee until such time as you became incapacitated. So it's going to be very specific. But what I would say is this, is that the judge's power is pretty preeminent. So I would caution people to try not to go around a judge's order. If a judge says you can't sell that house, I would be very, very cautious in denying that, even if maybe the trustee has that power. But there are situations where if you've got an independent trustee running the trust and they're not subject to the jurisdiction of that court, they could, in theory, still sell it. But be very careful. And if you don't have an attorney on something like that, you absolutely need to get one to advise, probably yourself, the spouse, somebody who's familiar with the guardianship court or the conservatorship court. Be very careful.
Okay, wonderful. So we're going to go back to medical bills, which I think that's very common, can add up very quickly, especially if you're a caregiver and then you're becoming stressed and not taking care of yourself, and you realize your health is failing too. So what strategies do you recommend to help reduce those bills or to manage them? What's really, I guess, the first steps?
First step is to understand your situation. So that means sitting down, hopefully with a loved one, maybe with a credit counselor, maybe all of that and more, and understand your income and understand, your outgo for the month and try to balance that. I don't want to recommend specific programs, but there are apps out there now, right on your phone or your computer, that can help you do that. I use one. Now, I won't say the name of it because I don't want to be recommending like for-profit companies, but there are many out there, and they are wonderful for syncing your bank account, helping you set up your own budget, and being able to really track in real time. Like, if I wanted to today, right now, I could pull up my phone and I could look and I could see where I'm at for the month on spending on, a category. So I would understand my circumstances first. And that's what I just described. But let's say you do that and you just can't make the monthly bottom line. There's just not enough money and there's too much debt. Then it's time to start talking again to a credit counselor is a really good thing. You can also go to a credit card company and you can do this on your own, or you can use credit counselors. I'm not working for credit counselors, by the way. I know I keep saying them, but you could try to do it on your own, is talk with your credit card company about a more manageable payment plan, so that you might be able to pay it off over a longer period of time. Like I said, now that might even be less than the current minimums, which is not good because then it's going to be forever to pay it off. But, a person in this situation has to decide, can I make my monthly expenses or can I pay down the debt? Maybe the answer is you can't pay down the debt, but at least you could focus enough or get enough extensions and a payment plan that allows you to live your monthly daily expenses.
So I'm going to follow up question so if you have a bill that is from, let's say you had a hospital, emergency hospital, you didn't know it, you got sick, how can you be able to communicate with the hospital? And like, is that typically something that's allowed? You can start payment plans with them. Is that, for someone
Yes.
who is on Social Security, you have limited income coming in, but emergencies happen and that might supersede what you have on Medicare to pay it or your supplement. Can communicating with a hospital and your insurance company be an option?
Right. Yes, you can. And I apologize. There goes my dog. But you can, and I would encourage you to do it. Most hospitals, by the way, this won't cover everything, but most hospitals operate in a not-for-profit status, which means they have some obligations to forgive debt too. So you can talk to them, number one, about maybe forgiving your debt. It is possible that will occur. The other possibility is they will absolutely help you try to create a payment plan with them. And oftentimes it will be at zero interest. So much better than just immediately charging it to a credit card, because now you're paying 36% interest or whatever number the credit card is charging you. So I would encourage that. The other thing that it does is when you talk to a hospital early on, like right after you get out of the hospital, it's not going to affect your credit rating because the hospital is not going to report you as a bad debt. If you're on an agreed payment plan with them, they're going to be okay with that. I have family members who have done that and done it very successfully. So absolutely. And maybe that's a theme we should highlight, Lori, is that communication with the people that or companies you're in debt with is very important, and be genuine. I know it can feel embarrassing to be in debt, but don't be. This is a place of non-judgment here today, but don't be embarrassed. These things happen to all of us. It is extremely common. You are not alone. So I would encourage you to really, really talk to people to try to arrange your circumstances.
And then would you suggest too, if someone is then, let's say the caregiver who has to pay the bills for mom who's in the hospital or just got out of the hospital, right? Would you encourage that person to keep almost a written journal or a journal in their notes on their phone, called the hospital, spoke with person
So
A
and so, yeah.
about plan A, this was it. So there is a record of it, of communication. Is that advisable?
I think that's really great because number one, now you have a full record if somebody challenges you on something like, oh, you never called us or some such. And number two, my memory's not perfect. So writing these things down as they occur, kind of like you said, Lori, a log or just a notebook is great. Doesn't take a lot of effort if you start right at the beginning. And certainly when you're caring for someone else, when you're the caregiver, so now maybe it's not your financial circumstances, but theirs, it's that much better to be able to show how you've worked through it.
Yep. Okay. This is a great question. Can creditors ever take money from Social Security benefits to pay a debt? And if so, what situations?
So very few. Generally, the answer you'll hear on that is no, they can't. So a credit card company cannot sue you and then try to garnish, which means like go literally into your bank account and have the bank give the money to them instead of you. They cannot garnish your Social Security. So private entities cannot. There's one big exception, though, is the federal government itself. If you owe a tax debt, for example, they can garnish your they don't even have to garnish it. They just go to the Social Security agency. Similarly, it's true for federal student loans. They can do it there as well. But let's say 95% of creditors cannot garnish your Social Security or a pension, by the way, or unemployment. So.
Okay. What is the most common debt-related scams targeting seniors, and how can they protect themselves? I think this is a very good question. I mean, people go in debt when they give away their savings, when they get a call that something's happened and it's just a scam. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, so there are a lot. And as soon as we identify them, other scam artists come up with new ones. For a while, one of the ones that you would get either an email or a phone text would be from a loved one, from somebody you know, and they will identify themselves as your sister, your brother, and you'll say, yeah, what you'll respond because you think it's them, and you'll respond, and then they'll tell you, well, my son or my daughter is in France and they got their passport stolen and we need money right away. Can you please transfer some money to this account so we can get them? Well, it's all a scam. It's a lie. So what I would do in that example is I would ask a question of the person, that only you and they would know. To verify, because in all likelihood, if anybody ever asks you to transfer money, just stop communicating. I mean, and if it's your daughter or your sister or something like that, call them and ask them if this is real. So those sorts of things, largely, if someone is asking you for any sort of personal information, any of your account numbers, your Social Security number, any of that, just stop. The other thing is you'll get letters in the mail that seem official, like they're from the Social Security office or something. Unless it's absolutely clear, and again, talk to people that you trust, your bank, your family members who help you. ignore them, because you know what? If it's real, they'll come back. But if it's not real, then you've avoided it. And it's really hard to tell. It's really hard to tell these days what's real and what's not. But I guarantee you, if it's actually the Social Security Agency, they'll get in touch with you in legitimate ways, not by telephone, not by email. They'll send you, a certified letter or something like that. So be very cautious, though, on all of those things. In my mind, it's better to ignore it in those and risk that you might get another, we used to call them dunning letters back in the day, but another notice, than to do it and find out it was a complete scam.
Yeah, no, that's true, because it's interesting, because so many businesses now, like when you go to a doctor's office or you go to the hospital, you may check off, yes, I'd like text updates on it. So now you're getting all these text updates, a click here to pay your bill, and at the same time they're taking advantage. Scammers are trying to get to you that way as well.
Right.
So it is challenging, but being aware is your greatest key. What actually happens when someone's debt after they pass away? Can their family be held responsible? So I'm going to preface this debt is, let's say I have a credit card, my credit card debt is under just my name, and I pass away.
Right.
Would my husband or my children have to pay off that debt?
Probably not. So if it's only in your name, that means it's only your debt. However, when you pass away, you have an estate, presumably. In other words, if you have some money at the end of your life that's yours, and it's going to go to whomever you want to, whether it's via a will or a trust, or maybe just by what we call the intestate laws of the state.
I think we just lost you, Steve. We'll give Steve just a minute to see if we can get him back on with us.
That pile of money has to, I think I froze there for a second. That pile of money has to satisfy that debt before it can go to the other family members or whoever you leave it to. But let's say you don't have any. You don't have anything because maybe you held all of your assets in joint tenancy with your husband, right? So there's no estate. Well, if there's no estate, that debt collector or that credit card company is not going to get money from your husband or your wife or your children, because they are not liable in the example you just gave me. Now, if the credit card is in, say, the husband and the wife's name, then they are responsible for it because their name is already on it. But if it is literally just yours, then no. In theory.
Okay. As Steve comes back to us after a freeze, we did get a nice comment from a YouTube listener. I have applied and been awarded forgiveness through a hospital medical care organization. They call in financial aid. So thank you for that, and keep your questions coming. I think we may see if we get Steve back. Are you back with us, Steve? All right, we're going to get you while you're here.
I think I froze pretty deeply there that time.
You did. That was a deep freeze. So here is another comment from YouTube. Some people look at retiring out of the country as a way to save on cost of living, which may include housekeeping and caregiving. Any experiences with this? Is this something that is talked about? Pros or cons? Any insight?
So not any legal insights. However, I have seen those opportunities. I used to subscribe to a magazine, actually, that talked about doing that. Most people weren't doing it to avoid healthcare expenses, though. It was more typical of it's exciting to live abroad in another place, and a lot of times it can be cheaper. But you really do have to watch out for insurance coverage, because your Medicare, assuming you have it, may not cover you, or may not cover you as thoroughly in a foreign country, which means you'd want to look at what the insurance or an insurance supplement in that country might be. But like I said at the beginning, I only have a license in the state of Illinois. I definitely don't have a license in Argentina, France, Sweden, you name it. So you will want to, if you want to explore that, you're going to want to talk to attorneys in those countries as well to see how that might work.
Excellent. And then definitely talk to, in the state of Illinois, we have SHIP, which is the Illinois Department on Aging, and they're your Medicare counselors. So if the supplement is available, if that is something for international travel or international living, what those options are. That is definitely a planning discussion. So we have maybe one more question before we get going. Is there free or low cost legal resources available for seniors dealing with debt problems?
Yes, absolutely. Here in Illinois, we have several in the area I live in, which is the suburbs of Chicago. A common one is Prairie State Legal Services, but I know that they are throughout the state of Illinois, and I know that virtually every other state has similar legal services. Call your local bar association. You can Google it. You can say if you live, like I live in Kane County, Illinois, so you could Google Kane County Bar Association, and it'll come up. You call them, and they can refer you to, a public service organization like that. They can often also refer you to pro bono attorneys who will do the work for free, even though that they're not like a legal services organization. They're regular attorneys, but there's typically an obligation in most states on attorneys to provide some free or low cost services to the public in general. So the best start for something like that is to call the Regions Bar Association.
Wonderful. And we're going to put a link here just shortly. It's from the American Bar Association, the names of it for various mandatory bars or voluntary bars that you can look at. And then you can be able to Google that, make it a little bit more streamlined. So our last question for the day is going to be, what are some practical steps older adults can take now to help them prevent going into debt till it becomes a serious problem? And again, if you're joining us and you're listening, we understand. We understand debt happens. We understand there's healthcare debt, life debt, grandparent debt, caregiving debt, property. We understand. This is not judgment. These are just a conversation to help you find that pathway. So, Steve, what are some practical steps?
So, as you said, Lori, a lot of debt is unavoidable like that. And that's not what we're really talking about in this question. I think the most practical thing you can do is, like I said, maybe get an app and track your monthly spending and connect it to your bank account. Now, I know I just said, don't tell anyone your financial information, but if you get one of these legitimate apps, and there are many, you can ask your bank about them too. Figure out your monthly bottom line, what your income is, what your outgo is. And I would really, really encourage you not to go over that. Even if that means maybe you have to consolidate some things. Perhaps you consolidate debt in a manner that allows it to be a lower monthly payment. It might mean changing your living arrangements. Maybe, and this is going to scare people, but maybe your home is too big for you right now, and maybe that you still have a mortgage on it. That's common these days. Maybe it's time to think about downsizing. But the thing that you really, really can't do, in my opinion, and succeed, is to live beyond your means every month on just the basics. So one way or another, you've got to try to get those down. And try to find methods to reduce the monthly expenses. There are a lot of things we can't control. And so some of you might be saying, Steve, I've done all that. I get it. And that's where you turn to Prairie State Legal Services, or not just that one, but the legal services systems. You can also look at bankruptcy. That might be an option. It might be necessary to clear bad debt. Those are options for you, but it's so easy for me to say, but it's not easy for people to do. Don't live beyond your monthly means. It's the most important thing.
Thank you so much. And what we're doing right now is our producer behind the scenes is going to put in that link for the American Bar Association. We've also put in an article about personal finance. And the last one, this is a great click with the AARP resources. It's on overall personal finance. So you're going to find a story about Social Security, how to get things cheaper, how to deals that are out there, 99 ways to save money, planning for retirement as a veteran, working with your debt, and then even finding unclaimed money. So that's right there in the AARP resource. You joined us today. We would love for you just to be able to find those resources because it's there. So Steve, as always, give us a words of wisdom as we close out this powerful 30-minute session.
Well, number one, thank you again. It's always a pleasure to do this. Thank you for the wonderful questions from people. And in the end, if you take these steps, if you work through some hard things, it's going to be okay. It will be. You can get through this. But reach out, seek help.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Again, my name is Lori Hendren. I'm the Senior Associate State Director here at AARP. And for all of you that are joining us from Illinois, from the different coast to states within in the middle of the United States, we thank you for being with us. We've posted some resources to help that first step if you need it, or if you're already there to kind of learn some more. We appreciate that. So again, look for us next month. We're going to be doing this again, another topic. Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, our producers behind the scene, and everyone that shared your comment to help make this dialogue so successful.